Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavakitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Utpatti Prakarana, section 119, and the topic is 7 steps of wisdom, which is the essential teachings of Yoga Vasistha and all scriptures. And if you take it from a very broad understanding, all religions. And just to reiterate those names, first step is Shubhecha, aspiration, not perspiration. We're living a life of perspiration through many lives. But now, turn your angle from perspiration just going into the cycle of birth and death. Instead of going into cycle of birth and death, inspirational movement. Once that angle has changed, aspiration, Shubhecha. Then allow your mind to become sensitive, what to pick up from the world and what not to pick up. Don't eat up everything that you find. Selective eating. In humorous, what I'm implying, allow the mind to gather profound impressions. Same mind has the capacity to gather all dirt and muck and make your residence very gloomy. And the same mind can open all the windows and create your life most joyous. So, that stage called Vicharana, a reflective movement, reflecting upon what is real, who am I. Then comes Tanu Manasi, mind that has become so inflated with so much junk and so many illusions. Reduce the obesity of your mind. Lighten the burden of your mind. Tanu Manasi. All these points I'm going to give you further details. And then fourth step, Sattvapatti. That's the state of enlightenment. Now your mind has shaken off illusions and is illumined. It can't go backward now. Once that backward movement stops, even though you may not have all the experience of the highest joy, once the backward movement has stopped, you are counted as enlightened. Because you have no other choice. We're just moving up and up. And of course, from Sattvapatti, you come to Asam Sakti. You are now simply growing into higher level. Asam Sakti means you are living in the world, but worldly matter does not disturb your inner awareness of I am that. You become, deep down, you become like the sky. Up till now, you have been a sky surrounded by clouds, defined by clouds. See, a patch of blue in the midst of clouds is always in shaky ground. But the sky itself is not on shaky ground. So try to understand that difference. Now you become like the sky. All clouds, all things that happen, you give room to all. You have no conflict with them. That one untouched by them. That's the Asam Sakti state. Then comes Padartha Bhavana. If you go in such depths of the cloud, depth of the sky, that even clouds, etc., are not there. Just the sky, the sky, the sky. Absolute absence of the world. And then finally, even this definition of absence does not apply. The reality, absolute. So these are 7 steps. Up to 4th step is your focus. And 4th is automatic. You don't have to push harder after attaining 4th. But until you have attained 4th, your effort has to be constantly active. But Sage Vasistha continues, therefore, O Rama, rid your mind of illusion by taking recourse to inquiry. Only we can translate Vicharana in English as inquiry. But you have to understand the allegorical meaning behind inquiry. Otherwise, in ordinary inquiry, you just sit by a person and start asking. Mind is very keen to inquire about so many things. But the most important point, the mind skips. Inquiring about who am I? And the more you inquire and the more you understand, your life becomes more and more blessed, equipped with profound divine qualities, shining with success and victory, and so forth. So that inquiry, which is the central theme of sadhana, the ego sense that has arisen in you is as illusory as the concept of golden ring. Golden ring and gold. Simple illustration is given. You have a golden ring that you have preserved in your house that's come from a great grandfather or grandmother. And to everyone you show the ring and tell the whole story, how it went from one hand to another. And at one time it was lost in a river. And after a year or two, they will go there and they find that. And that rings a wonderful bell in your mind, in the midst of countless rings. Leading with a joking state. But what? All the golden rings are nothing but gold. All your stories that you are building up around a ring, they are just like wind blowing. The real substance behind your ring is the gold. Names and forms create big illusion. Mind is constantly dealing with names and forms. Forms are your concepts. Names are, names are your concepts. Forms are what you see externally. You buy a house, you see the form. Name, you preserve it in your identity card. I'm joking, but that's the difference between names and forms. Forms you are seeing, and names, mind holds a concept about it, how you are related to those forms. But mind doesn't go any further, any deeper. If you go deeper, then you are dealing with Satchidananda. Satchidananda is the reality behind your mind. You always want to exist. That means Sat is your essential nature. You always want to know, and your knowing curiosity never comes to an end. Because essentially you are all knowing self. And always want to be happy. And you don't put a limit to your happiness. Just give me 10 degrees of happiness. $10 of happiness every month. You want to be Satchit Ananda, existence, knowledge, bliss. That's the reality. In simple one word, the self. Brahman, God, the Absolute. That is the reality. But names and forms are created by the conditioned mind, limited mind. And mind becomes more involved with names and forms and forgets about the source. Just like the sun creates all the shadows and lights upon the earth. Human mind goes after all this, forgets about the sun. But the sun is the reality. So that's what inquiry does. Who am I? The self is beyond time and beyond the world process. There is neither the creator nor creation. There is neither heaven nor hell. Most shocking news you have heard. You see the predicament of the sun on the earth planet. There is rising, setting, the sun being clouded, the sun being completely shut out. But that's reality from the earth planet. And a mind that is simply giving attention to the conditioned state of the world. But all this does not in any way apply to the sun. The sun is always the same, absolute. But when you are looking at all the reflected suns, a childish mind asks, who created them? And an adult mind, not matching up with the child's mind says, God created all this. And the child says, oh, he's so artistic. He creates the rainbow, colors them all so wonderful. What is reality? Nobody created anything. The sun is where it is. Shocking. And you come closer to that type of reality when you are in deep sleep. It's also another subtle point that God has sneaked into human reality. That is, day by day, there comes sometimes 50% of the day, sometimes 40% of the day, sometimes more. If you live for 100 years, you are not awake all the 100 years. You have spent a lot of time sleeping. So you are only 40 years old or 30 years. So when you sleep, you are not with the world, you are not with your body, all your relatives are not there. You are completely stripped of all. If you think of getting an estate where all things will be taken away from you, your mind becomes full of agony and pain. But in sleep, all this moves away. And you wake up with a bright face, enjoying the loss of all. Figure that out. And dig that in a deeper way to understand that that's your goal. Enjoy the loss of all. All this is based on the workings of your mind. And that mind is working through your brain and nervous system. So little coconut head with shredded nerves have created all this. Get out of this coconut. All this presented in a simple way. Life can be very simple, it can be very difficult. So patience is needed. Simple when your mind understands how sleep is so simple. You work hard and your idea, I'm going to go back. Now today I'm going to sleep. All your work becomes fascinating when you have that type of idea. But when you have another way of thinking, I'm gaining all these success, possessions, buildings, houses, but I'm going to die. Mind looks at this whole process in a very negative way. Brahman is the supreme reality underlying the illusion of the world process. That Brahman is beyond the senses, devoid of defects and modifications, indestructible and supportless. O Rama, since your knowledge has not blossomed into mature fruit of wisdom, in spite of your intellectual grasp of the illusoriness of the world process. Again, you have to understand, Rama doesn't need all this. But Rama is acting. He is the disciple and Vasistha is the teacher. Just like Arjuna was the disciple and Krishna was the teacher. Through that disciple's teaching, the scripture is presenting the teaching for you. However, with patient practice of inquiry and reflection, you are bound to realize the self. This world is nothing but the jugglery of Maya and can be negated by the attainment of wisdom. Therefore, take recourse to inquiry, and as the subtle desires are evaporated by the fire of wisdom, you will recover your essential nature. The creeper of Maya, devoid of its nourishment in the form of vasanas, subtle desires, cannot exist to create the thorny forest of the world process. In the next section, 120, Sage Vasistha continues. And the story turns your attention, rather the teaching turns your attention to the story of King Lavana. You have heard this story, and if you have forgotten it, doesn't matter. King Lavana, great king, while he is seated on his throne, a magician comes and puts him under trance. And he stays in that state for 2 hours or so. And when he comes back, he tells the whole story, how he experienced riding the horse, and a horse suddenly took him far into the forest. And there he clung himself to a branch, let the horse go. After the night was over, he was very hungry. He had to marry a Chandala girl, a wild tribe girl, and lived in the village of the wild tribe, completely forgetting about all his kingly roles. Years passed, and he and his bride, rather in his marriage, he gets son and daughter. And then there is a terrible famine. And so he and his wife and his son, together they go into the deep forest to find some support, somewhere, some food. And in deep forest, he is unable to find anything, and his son goes on crying, "Father, give me food." And the father says, "I have no food. But if I put my body in fire, will you?" In other words, will you eat my roasted meat? For wild tribes, it's not a horrible thing to hear. He said, doesn't matter. I am so hungry. And he puts himself into fire. And right at that time, he wakes up on the throne and realizes all this was complete illusion. So far, he has lived with that idea that all that he had experienced was nothing but illusion. But now the shocking news. After the experiences of King Lavana with the magician, the king entered into the Vindhya forests out of a curiosity to discover the places of his dreamlike vision. The story is the king was exploring in a forest and suddenly his memory entered. Certain things looked like very similar as if he had seen them. Then he wanted to explore more and more and became more and more fascinated. He exactly recognized even the trees where he had drawn lines and certain made even the bodies of animals that he had scattered around. There were some signs of his previous existence. And although he believed that what he saw in his vision was false, yet he continued to wander through the forests. One day he happened to see a forest that was seen during his vision, and with increasing curiosity and amazement, discovered all the familiar places, even familiar faces of the people he lived with as a Chandala. So it was not all fake. He discovered the same house and recognized the same close relatives he had lived with during his dream. And he saw the very trees that had dried up in the recent famine, and observed his friends and relatives and sons, the same son that has he. Who were still grieving over his death. His mother-in-law, remember one eye and crooked face, was grieving at the loss of both her daughter and her royal son-in-law. Because in that story, her daughter also died. He died, and after that, his wife also, the wild tribe, died. And now mother-in-law here has been grieving. She was enumerating his qualities and describing the good fortune of her daughter for marrying him. And the king goes there, but she doesn't recognize him. The king heard her lamentations. Alas, O royal, and he is hearing what the lady is saying about her son-in-law. Alas, O royal prince, you chose my daughter over all the beautiful ladies of the palace. And even this Chandala life you adopted did not prove to be enduring. What a cursed destiny. Oh friends, I have lost my husband, and recently I lost my daughter and son-in-law. I have become the very embodiment of misery. Even a lifeless stone is better than me. The king, who listened from a distance, now came closer. The king himself approached the weeping Chandala woman and asked questions regarding her daughter and son-in-law. He already knew, but he wants to verify and finds everything has been well authenticated. All that he has seen was exactly what happened. So nothing was false. Before going further, to, to break your suspense, you see some things in a dream. And in waking, those things happen exactly as you have seen them. And the faith is verified. It's authenticated. But it's a foolish idea. What you saw in your dream, it was not real. What you are seeing in the waking state is also not real. If you match up one illusion with another, that's not an authentication. This is a matter of thought, food for thought. And that's what the Yoga Vasistha is bringing up. First, it gives you all the suspense. He has everything all in detail. But later, it says, it's led by karmas. All what they experienced, it floated into the mind of the king. And even then, all that is he experiences as his practical experience is another illusion. Moved by compassion, King Lavana spent some time with the Chandalas, gave them many gifts, and after having allayed their sufferings, started out with his ministers and attendants to return to the palace. After spending the night in reflection, the king met Sage Vasistha, who was his preceptor. Sri Rama asked, O sage, please relate to me the teachings that you gave to King Lavana. How was it that his dream-like vision turned out to be real? Vasistha explained, O Rama, ignorance is capable of performing all types of miracles. Refuse the miraculous experiences of dream. A very long time may seem to be a very short period of time in a dream. One may see one's own deaths, or one may fly in the air, or see things that do not ever exist. All this becomes possible in your dream. In the same way, this waking state is also a refraction of your consciousness, caused by vasanas, subtle desires in the mind. The substance behind dream and waking is the same. Led by intense thinking and feeling, whatever idea or concept that settles within one's heart, that becomes one's reality. It's the magic of the mind that can convert a moment into an age, or an age into a moment. The events in the world are not realities in themselves, but only miraculous operations of ignorance. I'm putting in a mathematical way. Ask yourself, turn your attention to so many things of the world, one after another. You will always find that you know something about it, but not all of it. So one thing is invariable with all your knowledge is the unknown. I know this mala, but not all of it. Which tree, where, how, who knows? Turn to yourself, you know your nails. But how did it get into you? They're like a snail. Whatever you know is never complete. It's always with unknown with it. Knowns are variables, unknown is invariable. So in other words, you live in a world where your mind is gripped with ignorance. All your knowledge are in the umbrella of ignorance. The mind fabricates an illusory form of causation. See, karmas can bring about lots and lots of things. And all you experience and all you can think of through your mind is led by karmic process. The mind fabricates an illusory form of causation. For example, suppose a stranger happens to be under a palm tree. He watches a crow land on the tree and instantly a fruit falls and injures him. Fruit being ripe would have fallen anyway. And further, the bird didn't land anywhere near the fruit. But he sees the fruit, bird come. Much in the same way, overpowered by ignorance, human mind enters into the illusory process of causation. And you live in a world of www. That's my addition. It's a website. It doesn't require explanation. It's a site that is full of web. A work of a spider. www is where. Where am I? Why? When? www, where, why, when? And mind goes on weaving the web of causation. Because I went there, because I saw certain things, because this happened. Suddenly that inimitable person with two big teeth came out. A vampire. Joking. And therefore, all my misery. Karmas I have done. Look how many people are keep their records. Somehow they find with the astrologers. And they begin to count how many karmas they have dissolved, how many more karmas they have to work for. And that process of going is www. It's a website. And all that is a miracle of ignorance. In this world of relativity, there had been someone who was married to the Chandala lady who lived in the forest. Thing had nothing to do with it. Somebody, some other personality, married, lived. But his mental experience floated into the mind of this person because he had that type of a karmic need to understand the illusory nature of the world. That also has a purpose. He suffered all that within a short period of time, but ended up attaining enlightenment. Appeared like a short period, but he had to digest long period of suffering in a short period of time. In truth, ignorance is non-existent. It does not and cannot affect the self. Therefore, it is possible to remove the veil of ignorance by the force of spiritual inquiry. This is profoundly good news. I'm talking using humorous terms. It's not a news, it's a revelation. The reality, absolute truth. No matter how things have gone on, the reality never changes. Everything in the world you have to attain through karma, you have to create it. But self-realization you don't have to create. It's already ready in your refrigerator. It's ever ready. So therefore you don't have to worry that you're going to attain self-realization. And how long will it take to build up self-realization's palace? And what will happen if it crumbles? Nothing of the sort. Therefore, it is possible to remove the veil of ignorance by the force of spiritual inquiry. How can this self be associated with the body, mind, and senses, which are material in nature? Try to understand all these body itself. How do you know the body is there? Through your mind. But does the mind receive the real perception? The senses that bring perception before your mind, they themselves are not full of sense. They're senseless. I've already explained, just using scientific language, the world that human beings experience, that world is real for human beings. But human beings are not the only beings experiencing the world. In other words, your eyes could have been different. Imagine a human being who possesses vulture's eyes, elephant's ears, shark's tongue, and you can go and imagine it. What type of world will be? And what type of history will be written? How can this self be associated with body, mind, and senses, which are material in nature? How can the sun be related to darkness? O Rama, this world is essentially the self, but overpowered by ignorance. Illusions are mutually sustained by different minds and give rise to the apparent reality of the world process. When you are in the realm of illusion, then you live with people around you, and they help you to have your illusion, and you help them to have the. It's a mutual. Called relationship. When you are in a ship, then you allow your life to be entertained. Remember, but the ship can be risky. Your essential nature, O Rama, is beyond the three states of waking, dream, deep sleep, beyond the three bodies, physical, subtle, causal, beyond the five sheaths, food sheaths, that relates to your physical body, three sheaths, vital, mental, intellectual, they belong to your subtle body, and the causal sheath, bliss sheath, belongs to your causal body. And that's the basic study in Vedanta, to understand the layers of your personality. First layer in your personality, the food sheath, physical body that sustained by vegetables, food, whatever food you eat, is therefore called food sheath. Food relates to physical matter. And then this food sheath by itself can be operative. It has a vital sheath behind it, prana. Every cell within you is associated with a pranic vital movement, which organizes where the cells will be and how the whole life flow should be distributed all over your body, what type of prana should be for your brain, etc., etc. There's a whole study of pranas and kundalini yoga, etc. Then you have manomaya kosha, mind and senses. Senses bring all the perceptions, but mind gives meaning to whatever the senses bring. If your mind is not there and senses are operating, senses cannot complete your experience. In other words, your eyes are open and things pass by, but your mind is not there. So someone asks, did you see someone passing by? Did you see my little pet? No, I didn't. My mind wasn't there. So senses are not the ones who perceive. I'm giving you a little more detail. But idea to understand that first I describe the food sheath, your physical body. Second, your vital sheath. Then your mind, which has mind and senses together. And then you have intellect and ego. All mental operations will not be possible unless intellect gives evaluation. And intellect operates along with your ego. If ego is not agreeing with your intellect, then so many intellectual insights you gather and ego doesn't like them, thrown away, dump it. And then, when you are in deep sleep, ego is not there. But you are living with your causal, subtle state of mind, unconscious state of mind that is regulating your sleep. And led by karma, every now and then, dream sneaks into your sleep. So this. But you are beyond all these five sheaths. Sheaths are constantly changing. In waking state, all the sheaths are operating at every moment. Every moment you are aware of your body is there. You are aware of your life force, your breathing. You are aware of your sense perception. You are aware of your mind's activity and so forth. You are also aware of a sense of inner satisfaction and inner joy. which comes in deep sleep. All is there mixed up in daily life. The reality of the soul, the self, is stripped of 5 sheaths and 3 bodies. Don't put it into 8. You see, 3 bodies become 5. Rising beyond the waves of the mind, try to abide in your innermost self. For this self, the true identity of your being, is never affected by the illusions of the world. Everything in this world is constantly changing. Everything is subject to be demolished, modified, negated. But all this does not apply to the self. The self is like the sky, remains just the same. Until you attain that realization, there will be always the world of misery. From the point of view of the self, nothing has been created, and nothing is subject to destruction. Nothing exists other than the self. And therefore, there is no room for hatred, anger, fear, or any other negative mentation. Perceive the illusory nature of mental thoughts and their projections, and become absolutely detached from the world of time and space. Keep this chandala in the form of your mind, far away. That's the moral of this story. And with this, I will conclude. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.